Hello and welcome to FT Business School. This is the time of the year when business schools around the world find out who has come top in the FTA's annual MBA rankings. So I'm here to talk today about this to Della Bradshaw, the FT's business education editor. So Della, who's come top this year?
Well, it's a new business school. It's Insead. Insead is one of only 5 business schools to top our rankings since we introduced them in 1999. So this is very big news for them.
And quite a turnaround. I mean, tell us who was top last year and who Insead has replaced.
Okay, Harvard was top last year and has been for a couple of years. Stanford has also been top, Wharton and London Business Schools. So they're the top 5 business schools and have been for quite some years now.
Now, as I understand it, this isn't just a European triumph. Insead has its campus in Fontainebleau. It's also an Asian triumph.
Yeah, I think this is what's one of the 2 things that's particularly significant about this. 75% of all Insead's MBA students, that's 750 of the 1,000 students, study on both campuses. So that's the Singapore campus and the Fontainebleau campus. So what we're seeing here is a shift from the US and Europe towards the east. So it's the same shift we're seeing in business and in the economy. We're seeing it now in business schools.
And the other significant thing, of course, is that the structure of Insead's MBA program is different from the traditional winners.
Yes, it's the first time we've seen a 1-year MBA come top. In fact, you can do an Insead MBA in 10.5 months. Now, when they introduced that over 50 years ago, that was completely novel. If you look at what's happening now in the market, most new MBA programs are only 1 year in length. And what's significant to me is when you talk to professors from 2-year programs, they will always say, we can't teach students what they need to know in less than 2 years. But what's clear is they can. Recruiters are recruiting from Insead. If you look now to a separate piece of research, which my colleague Adam Paling's done onto the FT 500, the top 500 companies in the world by market capitalisation, what you actually see is that if you look at the CEOs, there are more Insead MBAs who are CEOs of those companies than any other top business school other than Harvard.
Tell us some of the other highlights of this year's rankings.
Well, I think one of the other very significant points looking at this move to the east is that there are, this year for the first time, we've seen less than 50 of the 100 schools are from the US. So there's 47 US schools in the ranking this year. And there are 13 business schools from Asia in the ranking, and when we first started, obviously in 1999, there were none of those. And the highest new entry into the rankings this year is Renmin, which is a business school in China. So that is the move to the east that we've seen with Insead. It's across the rankings.
Now, these rankings mark a personal milestone for you as well. After 20 years of doing these rankings as their founding editor, this is the last one you're going to do.
It is indeed, yes.
And how do you feel about that?
Slightly relieved, but I think we've done a very good job over the 20 years, so I'm pleased with what we've achieved.
Talk to us about how this all started. How did you begin putting this together right at the start?
Well, back in about 1998, we were looking at doing this, and what we were, it's quite difficult to remember what the sort of atmosphere then, but we were coming up to the millennium, and what we were looking at is which business schools are going to create the global managers for the 21st century. And so if you look at our rankings were very different to what the other rankings that were out there. First of all, they were global as opposed to just being US. Secondly, they had we ranked on things like diversity. Now, this wasn't just global diversity or nationality. It was things like international mobility, but it was also on gender. And I think one of the things people were outraged about at the time was that we looked at the number of women students on programs and the number of women professors, and we ranked according to that. And I think so I think looking back on it, I think we were quite prescient in some of those things.
And how have the rankings changed over the years? What other adjustments have taken place?
We've actually we adjust the rankings slightly every year to better measure what we're trying to achieve. But basically, the MBA rankings, there is one. There are 3 elements to them. One is how well did the graduates from these programs do, and we measure that across a number of criteria. The second one is how diverse are these programs? How are they training global managers? And the third is just the intellectual capital of the business schools themselves, looking at research, PhD programs, and so on.
Della Bradshaw, 20 years business education editor of the FT. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike.